this is just going to really help everyone really know the value of the X39 and really what we have our hands on. It's a product that is a complete game changer in so many lives. And we know that those of you who are on are experiencing some powerful, emotional testimonies.
Tell us, everybody, a little bit about your schooling and your background and your education and your medical practice, so that everybody knows, you know, where you practice and everything that they can know about you as far as a doctor.
Sure. So thank you, first of all, for having me, and thank you, everyone, for attending. I'm excited to get to speak to you all today. So I'm a medical doctor. I attended the University of Virginia School of Medicine, graduated in 2014, went on to do my internal medicine training at Maine Medical Center in Portland, Maine. And since then, I have been running my own concierge medical practice, which is mostly virtual and mostly here in the state of Florida.
Wow.
Thank you so much for your credentials. And Dr. Stillman, can you please tell us really what caught your eye with the X39 product and the technology? Really, what was the zinger that kind of was like a game changer for you and an eye opener?
So I became fascinated by light as medicine must have been 2017. And I dove deep into all the papers on this, started looking into devices that were tens or $10,000, $20,000 is basically what it was starting, right? And then there were devices up to $100,000, like red light therapy beds, like the NovoThor. Great products, incredible outcomes, an incredible whole new world of medicine, but unfortunately very impractical for the average person. It took a lot of time out of their day. Frequently they had to go somewhere to have the therapy done. Sometimes it was expensive on top of that, and then you're driving, you have to go multiple times a week. This was an opportunity I saw very quickly for me to deliver light therapy to people while they were at work, while they were at home, while they were indoors, getting on with life, right? Yeah. And so I knew immediately that it actually took a fair amount of prompting, though, from Renita Brannon, who we all know, for me to really take a look at it and then start using it in my practice, because I get a lot of...
Did she keep bugging you and bugging you?
She did. She kept bugging me and bugging me.
Great.
And that is something that you have to realize about this, particularly if you want to build up the business side of it, is people are so inundated with information. There's so many products that are being sold. Unfortunately, a lot of them will say, I don't want to try this. I'm going to go do something else. I'll get distracted. But the key is the value is there. And that was immediately what I noticed when I started to actually recommend it. And then also what I did for my own peace of mind, really, was to put out a link in my blog posts and my email newsletters to a survey. And immediately the surveys we started getting back, reviews were incredible.
Wow.
Right. And so, I spend a lot of time counseling patients on diet, lifestyle, exercise, all these things. We put them on complex supplement regimens that are hundreds of dollars a month, oftentimes. And I was getting the same results in many cases with something as simple as a patch, like the X39, that I would otherwise be having to, recommend hundreds of dollars in supplements or potentially medications in order to get the same outcome. So very limited, even with very limited experience with it, it was already very clearly very powerful. The science behind it made sense to me, and so then we just started recommending it to practically everyone.
Wow, that is some great.
So
great
good
info.
job, Renita. She kept following up.
She did.
Proud of that girl.
Yeah.
And did you hear how he said that the reviews, so that would be testimony, came in like off the chart? Like he's having
right away
great results with the patch compared to maybe doing supplements.
Yeah.
That's
or his other therapies that costed tens of thousands, sometimes upwards hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh, yes.
incredible.
Yeah.
Particularly like stem cell therapy. We talk about that all the time because it's related. Yeah, I mean, people are sadly, a lot of them look at the sticker price of the LifeWave X39 and they think, wow, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But the reality is with the outcomes that people get, you then ask them, well, would you rather spend $5,000 on a stem cell injection therapy protocol that you can't use for years? That happens once and then maybe you don't get good results from, or you don't get any results from, because that happens, right?
Right, exactly.
And that's what is $5,000? And that's a low end for stem cells. I mean, you could get 10, 20, 30. Yeah. So then it's just a simple math. Do you want to use this for years, or do you want to use that once?
Right. Okay, let's give everybody, Dr. Stillman, can you explain exactly in simple terms how the X39 works?
Yes. So our bodies emit a certain amount of infrared light. So infrared light is light we can't see. We sense it as heat. So when you go outside on a sunny day and you feel the warmth of the sun on your face, what you're really sensing is the 42% of sunlight that is in the infrared part of the spectrum, okay? What people don't realize is that infrared light fundamentally runs a lot of their biology under the hood. And they don't realize this because, we don't come with a owner's manual or instruction manual, so you have to kind of figure it out as you go. But quite literally, your mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cell, they make energy in the form of heat. They make infrared light. This interacts with water in the cell to create energy. So the X39s reflect a very specific frequency of light back into the cell that has a specific effect of turning on and off key, I'm going to call them bioregulatory pathways, right? But biochemical pathways and so on and so forth. And that's how they work. So, you asked me to make sure I made it simple and understandable.
Yeah.
It's real simple. These patches reflect your body's light back into the body at a very specific wavelength for a very powerful therapeutic effect.
Wow.
Boom.
See?
You got it. Simple as
Appreciate
can be.
you sharing with that.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. So can you explain, like, we get a lot of people saying that, well, I feel so much better. I had like a back issue, or I had a knee issue or discomfort, and now I don't need to wear the patch. But why is it so important to continue to keep wearing the X39 patch? I know I'm wearing it till
So
Jesus takes me home.
What I ask people is, do you wait to change your oil until your engine is knocking or your car's engine is smoking? And they say, no, of course not. Why would I do that? I say, okay, so you do reasonable things to keep your car in good condition because you recognize that replacing your engine block could be $5,000 to $20,000 depending on the vehicle, right? And you realize you got to keep your wheels in the right alignment, and you got to rotate the tires, and you got to do all this stuff, right? Why do you do that? They say, well, I know. My car came with an owner's manual. I say, I know. You didn't. Right? So what are we going to do? We're going to do everything reasonably possible, right, to keep you in the best condition possible. And when you look at the kind of results people are getting with this, a lot of it is diseases that have emerged, right? They've emerged out of the body, and they're clearly a problem, right? Wouldn't it be great if before they emerged, you kept them sort of back? And that's why I recommend and why I use the patches myself every day, even though I don't have any real medical problems that I'm treating with them.
Right.
Exactly.
Excellent.
And that is exactly why you are online for this virtual convention, your best year ever, because we're going to help you make money so you can wear these forever and keep getting this amazing testimonies. I've been wearing the patch for 17 months, and I'm still every day, both of us are still getting a testimony. I'm like, whoa. I guess it's because I'm going to be 62 coming up, so maybe that's why I'm still getting testimonies. But I don't know. I'm not going to stop wearing it. I'm super excited about it. Can you explain and tell us the GHK copper peptide is a really, really hot topic?
Yes.
And can you explain what it does, how it happens, how does it raise the levels of our GHK, this tiny little X39 patch?
Yes, great question. So minerals are actually, and GHK-Cu or GHK copper peptide, it's a peptide. A peptide's a collection of amino acids that's not big enough to be a big protein like, say, hemoglobin, but it's bigger than just a couple of amino acids put together. So we call it a peptide. And it binds to copper. Now, part of why I became fascinated by this technology, these products, is that I'm fascinated by minerals. Copper is a mineral, it's an element, it's in the periodic table of elements. If people want to learn more about this from me, I'm constantly educating people about this on my weekly webinars, where often I'll bring up these products because they're of value, obviously. Because we have to get our minerals right in order to have overall health and vitality. Many of the people watching, I mean, I have had certainly experiences with taking magnesium or taking Epsom salt baths. These are minerals. We're using them therapeutically, right? So we've used minerals for millennia in medicine. One of the things about minerals that is increasingly clear from the scientific literature is that they have to be in the right place. In other words, a mineral can basically become a loose cannon if it's not properly bound inside of a protein, right? And this is why when I started to see people who were what I suspected was copper toxic, we call it copper toxicity, or sometimes I call it copper overload. It's people who have too much copper in their diet, too much copper in their bodies, too much copper due to hormones or due to environmental contaminants, things like copper piping. There's a very clear sort of personality type and background that lends itself to this. And when I started to look at how these people were responding to the LifeWave patches, all of this made more sense. Because essentially what we're doing is we're taking free copper, which now from the literature we know is implicated in things like Alzheimer's disease, dementia, cognitive decline, the genesis of things like cancer, all sorts of diseases that we don't want, not to mention cardiovascular disease, still the #1 killer of Americans. When I saw that what we were doing was increasing a peptide that bound copper, and instead of that copper then creating what we call oxidative stress, free radical damage, and what I generally call metabolic mayhem within the human organism, and we put it to work doing what it's supposed to do with a peptide that binds it, that's when I thought, this makes sense. Because I've found that people have this, they struggle with this idea of, oh, there's this little thing, I put it on my body, and all of a sudden I get this really disproportionate big effect. Sounds too good to be true. But many things operate on these principles, like acupuncture, right? You place a needle in the body. I've seen people get amazing results with acupuncture, right? That's why the patches go on specific parts of the body, right? I've seen people with light therapy get amazing results. Usually it's with very expensive devices, as we talked about, or it's with radical lifestyle changes, which, like, for example, people will like move to a tropical country and all of a sudden they're getting way more light. But for most people who are working an indoor job, that's not possible without, basically going hungry. So they don't do it, and they can use the LifeWave patches in order to get the benefit of infrared light that they would otherwise need to get from the sun.
Right. Wow.
So.
Fantastic.
Okay, I feel like I'm interviewing him myself. You're just sitting there. Anyways, that's okay. So can you explain
I'm bringing it
to
all
us?
in. I can't wait to break out of here.
Yeah. Can you explain to us how the X39 actually raises the levels of our copper peptide?
Great question. Wow, what a great question. Okay, here's why this is a great question. Because Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Okay? So all of you have had the experience of listening or hearing a noise that for some reason just made your hair stand up on end. Fingers on a blackboard, the sound that's like a hinge will make when it's rusty and it's creaking open. It just makes you uncomfortable, right? Yes. And what's funny about that is these noises are not necessarily loud, right? It's that their frequency is very powerful. Yeah. It can almost make your whole body feel uncomfortable, right? That's why the patches are engineered to reflect a very specific frequency back into the human body. Without you even noticing it, that frequency going back into the human body is turning on cells and pathways and changing what's happening within your body. And that is the foundational science of the technology. And that, I think, is something people who are used to pills and things that come in bottles and boxes and bags for their wellness, they're not used to thinking in terms of, oh, wait, if I just pick the right energy for my problem, it'll just go away. But it works that way. And the longer I practice in the integrative natural medicine space, the more I think in those terms, and the more I find myself quoting Tesla's quotation, which I just shared with you.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Incredible. So now everyone's starting to get an idea of how this GHK is being worked because of this powerful product. I mean, technology, just a little quarter-sized patch. Tell us a little bit about stem cells, all right? It's the hottest topic on the street. I mean, it is in wellness, but even those of us lay folks, when we talk, people have been talking a lot. They even do seminars now, clinics. They invite influential people into dinners, and doctors talk to them about the importance of stem cells. So the knowledge is really starting to get up there. But can you discuss a little bit, explain what stem cells are, and why it's so important for them to remain active, which, by the way, as a former pro athlete for 25 years, not one team doctor, not one doctor that did my 14 surgeries, none of my therapists, or I've been to 37 physicals since I've been married. Gina's had me at 37 physicals, right? So she must wanted me to stick around. Not one doctor has said, Steve, do you know as you get older, your stem cells become dormant? No one has told me this until I heard of this X39.
Maybe they thought you couldn't handle it.
So tell us, a little bit about stem cells, what they are and why they need to remain active, because I didn't even know they were going to go dormant.
Yes. So stem cells are cells that can grow, and then what we call, the word we use is differentiate into other types of cells.
Okay.
I want you to think about it in terms of like, you could take dollars in your checking account or a credit card and you could go out and you could buy anything. You could turn it into whatever you needed, right? You could turn it into a car, you could turn it into a house, you could turn it into a shed, you could turn it into tools, you could turn it into LifeWave patches. Whatever you want to turn it into, you can turn it into that, right? But at the end of the day, if you don't have any cash in the bank, how do you turn your car into money for groceries, right?
Yeah.
So the body has this finite number of cells that we call stem cells, and the stem cells themselves become anything you need. You need new heart cells, they become heart cells. You need new brain cells, they become brain cells. You need new hip cells, new joint capsule cells, new bone cells, new muscle cells, new whatever cells, those stem cells become those cells. They're all over your body, they can travel through your circulatory system. And the thing about stem cells is they, as you mentioned, they go into what we call senescence and they begin to run out as we get older. This is part of the aging process, right? And so the name of the game really of anti-aging and regenerative medicine might easily be summed up in keeping as many stem cells around for as long as possible and keeping them as powerful as possible.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So anything that does that tends to help people recover from illness, avoid degenerative diseases of aging. I'm talking about heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, obesity, all the things that people today have learned to fear, unfortunately. And the name of the game is keeping the stem cells well to mitigate or prevent those illnesses and recover from them, because illness is a part of life. It's a fact of life. We're all getting older. And so we all want to be in as good a position to recover when we do have a medical problem as possible. And that's why stem cells are so important.
Wow. So listen, if you decide or we get a message on our This Is It Team Facebook page that you say, I'm not going to wear the patch anymore, Dr. Stillman is coming to your house to see if you're alive, if you're breathing, because if you just heard that statement, it's like you would definitely want to wear the patch. I mean,
Incredible.
Be smart. That is huge, that the cell can turn into anything that your body would need. Incredible. Incredible.
Yeah. It is incredible.
It's absolutely mind-blowing, really.
Right.
When you think about it, this tiny little patch.
It is. It is. I mean, it's hard to believe. I can understand why Renita had to like keep calling him, because it doesn't matter who you are, even if you're a doctor, probably especially as a doctor, it's hard to believe that a quarter-size patch, $99, could do something maybe even more powerful than a $25,000 tool or a $100,000 tool.
And it's funny you mentioned that, yes, because this is a much more affordable therapy than the ones it's competing with. The stem cell injections and treatments are, I mean, $2,000, I'd be very, very concerned about where you were getting your stem cell treatments if you were finding something that little, right? $5,000 is often where people are. Right. Some centers are offering $10,000 more. Many people are flying internationally to get this, add that cost on top of that. When you look at what we're doing with GHKCU, when we upregulate it, you're turning on, well, I explain it to patients this way. I say, look, this is part of turning on your body's rest, regeneration, rejuvenation systems. That's what I want to do with this patch. And that's why, we see the results that we do see with the patch. And so if you're going to go out there and spend $5,000, $10,000 or more on this, and you're not going to try this, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
Because the truth is, we have people who come in, my hip pain's gone, my elbow pain's gone, my neck pain's gone, we've talked about a lot of things that, sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I can say the patch did this. I'm like a little bit worried that the FDA will come after me or whatever, but it's
miraculous.
Sure.
It is.
Yeah, it is miraculous. Yeah.
And it works on everything, guys.
Yeah. Seeing as how we're
Put the
talking a
patch
bit
on.
about injections, now being a former pro athlete, they actually told Gina and myself they were going to give us a deal, and it was $23,000 each for stem cell injections. Can you tell us the difference between what I'm seeing? Because the testimonies I'm seeing from this X39 blow away what I've heard, even with people with stem cell injections, meaning that they're only stuck in a certain spot. But tell us the difference. Obviously, the price. is number one. I mean, $99 versus
Wake up
20
call.
grand, and you're not guaranteed it's going to work. Here, we're at least guarantee a 30-day money-back guarantee.
That's true.
interesting.
You can't get that.
You know, so
And
tell us a little bit.
that's the tough thing about procedures is that procedures have this big ticket price, right? And the reality is that that ticket price, you go to the procedure, you have it done, then people generally fall into, I look at it as three categories, right? You get the people who get no benefit, you get people who get a slight and potentially likely transient benefit, and then you get the people who are the poster children who end up in the infomercials and the advertising, right? And that's great, but I don't think that people realize that they may spend $5,000 and end up in the bottom tier. And the thing is, you can get the X39 now, you can enroll some friends, all of a sudden yours are paid for, and then you can use it for the rest of your life.
Right.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
And with the number of people who have life-changing results when they start using the patch, your friends are going to be mad at you if you don't enroll them sooner than later. Because, and I'm not going to say they're going to be mad at you, right? Because, I mean, are they really going to be mad at you? No, but they're going to wish that you talked to them
That's right.
earlier.
Yeah.
So can you give us, a lot of people are saying they're having a detox. Now, I didn't have a detox, and you didn't have a detox.
No.
So,
Yet,
yeah, yet.
Yeah.
Yet? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
you're still young.
We
Good
wanna
still,
learn.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're still young. What is a detox?
Okay.
And what can they experience?
With the X39.
Great
With the
question.
X39.
Great question. So, long before I started using LifeWave, right? In natural and integrative medicine, what you're trying to do is turn on the rest, rejuvenation pathways in the body to get it to come back to a state of better health, right? In order for the body to fight off disease or undergo a rest and repair process, right, it can be a little bit unpleasant, right? You might need to sweat out some toxins, you might need to throw up some toxins, you might need to excrete some toxins, right? And so sometimes people will mistake the symptoms of disease for the signs of ill health, when truly the symptoms of disease are a sign that the body is actually doing something about a problem in the body, right? And that's
That's the kicker right there, guys.
it's a big stumbling block for people because they'll think, say, I tried the X39 and I felt worse. What happened? Well, when you get on a plane and you fly across the country and all of a sudden the plane is jerking and jumping up and down and it's turbulence, right? Do you assume that the plane is going to crash? No. You know, and I tell this to patients when they're saying, I'm sort of scared, I'm worried, you know, like, should I keep going with whatever you've recommended me to do, or should I quit, or, you know, is this good for me? Is it bad for me? I say, look, if every plane that ever hit turbulence turned around, no one would ever get anywhere.
That's
You got to make, and I'm not saying that you can't,
good.
you shouldn't go seek medical attention for symptoms or signs or illnesses, right? You got to use your own judgment. But at the end of the day, so much of, and I sometimes explain it to people, that it's like your house, right? Day to day, things accumulate in your house, the pantry gets full, you forget about things in the back of it, they don't get used up, maybe they start to smell a little bit funny, right? Yeah, and you know, it's easy to keep the pantry door closed, it's easy to ignore the back of the fridge, but you know those chickens are coming home to roost one day. And when you finally decide to actually pull that stuff out and leave it by the curb, it doesn't smell good. And that's okay. The body is the same way. The more stress you put the body under, the more toxic load you put the body under from your air pollution, water pollution, all the toxins in our food, personal care products, etc. The more of that is coming into the system, your body understands honestly what you're trying to do. It understands that you have to get to work, you got to take care of the kids, you got to work that other job, you got to, you know, you want to stay up and watch some TV, and you want to do this and you want to do that. It's trying to basically delay that period of taking out the trash as long as possible, which is why often my patients will notice that they actually get sick around the holidays. Because around the holidays, they're no longer under pressure to perform at work. And all of a sudden, it's almost like they have permission, and they give their body permission to get sick.
Wow.
So when people are going through these detoxes, it's very important to understand that this is often, if not always, part of the healing process. And if you kick that, I sometimes call it kicking the can of their wellness down the road. If you just keep kicking that can down the road, it doesn't end well. You have to take some days off. You have to sometimes feel worse in order to feel better. And that's okay. And the key is to make sure that you're nourishing your body, you're hydrating it well, because what your body is trying to do is it's taking toxins out of cells, dumping them into your bloodstream. That's part of why you feel bad. Then it's trying to excrete them through your kidneys, and it's trying to excrete them through your gut. And so eating things like fresh fruits, vegetables, hydrating well. I recommend to my patients, all my patients are on a custom supplement protocol who work with us at my practice, right? Mm-hmm. So if people work with me as a patient, we got them on the supplement protocols, LifeWave patches, and all these things to support that process. And that's how we minimize those detox reactions and get people through them as fast as possible.
Let's talk a little bit about something different that's going on with Gina and myself and a lot of other people. We have experienced incredible mental clarity.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So something must be going on in the brain with these
Praise
X39s.
the Lord.
So I want you to kind of like highlight, because why wouldn't somebody want to live the rest of their life with much more clarity and focus than having brain fog?
I'm so glad you mentioned this, because one of the patterns that I see happening, and one of the things about Americans in particular we know, is that most Americans are actually more afraid of dementia than they are of death. I look at brain fog as fatigue of the brain. When people tell me they're tired, the next question I almost always ask them is, do you have brain fog? And almost all of them say, I have some degree of brain fog. And the people who have brain fog, and the top 3 conditions we see in my practice are resistant weight loss, brain fog, and fatigue. Those are the top 3 things that we see, the top 3 things that I'm confident I can knock out of the park for anybody. LifeWave patches being one of the ways we obviously get that done. Okay. But I look at brain fog as being fatigue of the brain, and I look at it as being, and no one studied this yet, but I'm convinced that if they study brain fog, the severity of your brain fog will predict the health of your brain 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the line.
Wow.
We know that as free copper accumulates in the brain, it creates mayhem, a lot of oxidative stress. It's associated very strongly with dementia and with degeneration of the brain. It's also associated with mental illness. That is not just copper, but also iron. However, copper controls iron. So all these minerals play together.
Right.
So the key is get everything in balance and keep your healing, rest, rejuvenation, regeneration pathways functioning at optimal levels, because that's what I believe is responsible for giving people this mental clarity that more than one person has commented on.
Wow.
It has to be the body is renovating the brain and getting those neurons back to optimal firing status, right? So I hear that all the time, and I'm always pleased when I hear those reviews or testimonials about the X39's effects on someone's mental function.
Let's talk a little bit.
I want to ask him something real quick, because it's not in my question, but when you check someone for high, you say dosage of copper, how do you check that?
Great
you
question.
Check hair or you check blood?
So,
because I know they're all going to be asking.
No, I know.
He mentioned that.
It's
how
true.
do you check that?
I check.
You come to Tampa.
Yeah.
Naples.
We do work with people remotely, but yes. Because we can get a blood draw anywhere, and we can get hair testing almost anywhere.
Right.
But we test the blood, and then we test the hair.
Okay.
And this is one of the most interesting things I've found in my practice in the past. And if people want to learn more about this, again, my stillmanwellness.com is where the email list is, and you can sign up. We have webinars on stuff like this.
Great. Stillman Wellness, guys.
Yeah. So what we found when we started to test the blood is that oftentimes the copper would be higher than the zinc level. And when copper gets out of control, I told you guys it creates a lot of mayhem, right?
Right.
It wasn't that the copper was toxic. It wasn't like in the 180s, 190s, 200s, where it's actually putting people in the ER, the ICU, and rendering them totally disabled due to mental illness. It was in the 120s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, okay? Then I started to look at it in the hair. In the hair, paradoxically, it was often very low. So you have these high levels in the blood, low levels in the hair. How does that make sense? The body is not harnessing the copper, it's accumulating in the tissues. It's not present in a high enough quantity to kill somebody or make them really sick and send them to the hospital, but it's high enough that it's causing a lot of mayhem, right? Just like, sometimes I'll ask patients, I say, if I could make 3 of your problems go away and they can't be taxes, in-laws, or stepchildren, what would they be and why?
That's good.
Everybody laughs, and the older they are, the more they laugh at that joke, by the way.
For sure.
So, you know how you could have a toxic stepchild, toxic mother-in-law, right? They don't make you sick enough to go to the hospital, but they sure make life unpleasant, don't they? The copper is the same way.
Wow.
And that's why most doctors don't know about this, don't talk about this, don't treat their patients like this. But what we started to see was that when you start to treat people with the right bevy of minerals, vitamins, amino acids, supplements, and dietary change that they need in order to optimize cellular energy production, which includes the LifeWave patches and the GHK, CU pathways, right? They start to then push tons of copper out into the hair. And so what's happening is they're optimizing their total body copper stores, right? Just like maybe finally you get enough money to rent an apartment across town and you put your mother-in-law there, and then she doesn't drive you so crazy, right? So that's what we started to see, and that's how we tested. We tested in the hair, we tested in the blood, and that way we know where people are. And man, when I know someone's copper toxic, I'm always excited because I know I can help them. And the thing is, I don't want people to take that phrase, copper toxicity, and get the idea that copper's bad. It's like saying mother-in-laws are bad. That's not at all fair to mother-in-laws who are wonderful and nice. And people need to realize that, because it's nothing is either good or bad. It's when you put it in the right context that it can be good or bad, right?
Wow.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about this. As far as, let me just kind of highlight what I grasped. It says your discussion, we were talking about this recently just now, about how copper in the body must be bound to peptides and proteins.
Yes.
So that's what he's saying is there's people that have copper in their body, but it's not bound to a peptide or protein.
Right.
In order to be used properly, the copper is not attached to the peptide or the protein, and it's effectively, like you said, a loose cannon in your body. So can you tell us a little bit, this is very dangerous, what you're saying, to people's health.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It is the root of the majority of the diseases of aging. If you really look in the literature, what's causing heart disease, cancer, diabetes, obesity, it all comes back to oxidative stress. It all comes back to free radical generation. What generates these things? Heavy metals and minerals, particularly iron and copper. So that's where the majority of this oxidative stress is coming from. And copper is very much the linchpin in a lot of this. Because when you look at systems of energy generation in the cell, critical metabolic pathways, copper runs a lot of them. And so when it's not in its proper place, you get mayhem. And that's why you see such good results with these patches.
That does not sound good.
No, it's terrible.
No. Now, can you just give us a quick, simple explanation of
Analogy?
how the X39 makes this work together, how they attaches to the peptides or the proteins, how the copper attaches?
Essentially what the X39 is doing is it's turning on the production of the peptide that binds the copper, right? So, it's tough for me to come up with a good analogy, but if you look at water in your house, right, we're all happy that we can flush the toilet, turn on this tap, get water out of the refrigerator or your water filter or whatever.
Especially flush the toilet.
Right? But, if you have water in your house in the wrong place, you may wind up or wake up one day with half your house being full of mold. All of a sudden, you got to do $150,000 or more in renovations. And that's if you got a small house that's not that expensive, right? Free radicals, heavy metals are the exact same story. And so this is like improving the plumbing in your house to prevent a leak. And that's why I love it.
So looking at preventative is just as much or more important than somebody looking for that one little elbow issue isn't going away yet.
No.
This is way bigger
this is
than
deep.
this.
Yeah.
Well, people start to really, their thinking starts to break down here. And I often see this happening, that people will say, well, I don't want to spend this or that or the other thing on this or that or the other thing, X39 patches, supplements, good medical care, whatever. The liabilities that show up out of that are $100,000 hospitalizations, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 stem cell procedures. The amount of money you're going to spend on maintenance is going to be dwarfed by the amount of money that you're going to spend on getting these diseases back under control, if you even have the option. Because for some people, their first heart attack is their last heart attack. Their first stroke is their last stroke. Their first cancer is their last cancer. They don't get a second chance. So particularly when you have an opportunity to turn this into a revenue stream for your household, and that's part of why I took the time today to do this. It's part of why I take the time to write about it on my newsletter, is that when people understand that this is the opportunity to get in early with one of the best products in the health and wellness space that's absolutely cutting edge, you would be crazy not to take it.
Right.
It's right here. When I surveyed my list of email subscribers, only 22%, 3, 4, 5 months ago, had heard of this patch. That means 75% of the most savvy health and wellness consumers out there still haven't heard about it. That means the general public still has absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
That's
Which
why screams
it's a
opportunity.
It does. It screams opportunity.
Yes. Okay, I have a really good question, Dr. Stillman. One of the hottest topics in beauty is collagen.
Yes.
Right, ladies?
Yes.
So help us, ladies. How do we, when we're trying to increase in our body the collagen, there's many benefits. Can you explain the importance of the collagen, what benefits we can expect, and do you feel the X39 is more powerful method of increasing collagen than other supplements? So
collagen is the main structural building block of the body. Mm-hmm. You know, here in America, right, I would say, I don't know what proportion it is, but if you took, say, like bricks, mortar, and cement, I would say that probably is responsible for 70, 80% of everything we've built. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Kind of a big deal, right? Yeah. So the more collagen you have and the better shape it's in, the better your skin looks, the tighter it looks, the fewer wrinkles you have, the fewer, bags, crow's feet, whatever you're going to actually have, right? So keeping our collagen peptides strong, keeping them abundant is the name of the game. Under the hood, we actually know that people with better collagen networks, collagen helps hem in things like cancers. So the stronger your collagen network, actually, the more it's going to protect you from things like cancer. Very important. It also protects your arteries, right? So when you have, say, a heart attack or a stroke, oftentimes what's happening is the vessel wall has been damaged. The collagen, the elastin, the other fibers in there that make up that vessel wall, they've been damaged. The body tried to clot in order to heal that damage, and then that created the stroke or the heart attack, right? So collagen is critical. It's one of our most abundant proteins. You can take collagen peptide supplements, and most people, particularly women today, don't eat enough protein, and many of them benefit from 10, 20 grams of extra collagen peptides a day, whether that's as bone broth or they take a collagen peptide supplement. However, right, just because you throw more collagen into the mix doesn't mean that it gets incorporated well, right? So you want to be doing everything that you can to keep your body healthy and well, and the GHKCU peptide pathways, the pathways it affects, play into this, right? So you can improve your collagen matrix without changing anything about your nutrition, just by changing the light that your body is absorbing vis-a-vis, say, the X39 patch. Right. Wow. Yeah. Amazing. And that's why, you brought it up because we hear testimonials all the time. My hair's not gray anymore, or it's going back to the color it was. My skin, hair, and nails are better. Renita's told me she's had moles fall off of her body. All kinds of cool stuff, right? Gosh, it's gross. I've heard a lot of, I've actually heard more about varicose veins. People telling me they're varicose veins. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
amazing.
that's some great information. Here's a great question to help everybody here with their doctor, or if there's a doctor listening, okay? Dr. Stillman, as an MD, please explain to other doctors and medical professionals who have never heard of X39 why they should take this technology serious.
They should take this technology seriously because it works. It's very cost effective for the results that it gets. It can actually provide them with more time for themselves, for their families, and most of all, for really good patient care. Because one of the challenges we face today is that patients need a lot of time, they need a lot of education, but people will balk at spending a lot of money on medical consultation. And this allows physicians, part of why I'm able to do so much content production now, we have tons of videos going out on YouTube and Instagram, and we have things going out on Twitter, we have lots of social media going. Part of that is because we have income streams from things like LifeWave that then allow me to essentially offer free education to the public about how to be healthy and well. And that then allows me to not just see patients all day, which frankly is burning a lot of doctors out. It's why so many patients are complaining about the quality of medical care. The doctors are tired. So it works. It's cost effective in the long run. It's a great revenue stream for a practice. And the other thing is it will get people results oftentimes even if they don't do anything else. Right. So oftentimes we see, particularly in the integrative and natural world, people have got to give up soda and sugar, and they got to go keto, and they got to eat this, and they got to take that, and then they get great results. that requires an enormous amount of lifestyle change. Some people are not ready for that, or they haven't decided to commit to that. And whether or not they should or need to, which of course I recommend that they do, I would rather or would like to see them get a benefit from this, because oftentimes that's what then catapults them into a better lifestyle, a better, healthier diet. They wake up, they're like, oh my gosh, wait, I could be so much healthier, so much better, so much clearer, so much more focused.
Wow.
Now, tell them again, we spoke about this earlier, but if you're speaking to a doctor, because I mean, you had to get some results, see some results to have your interest peaked as well. Because
yes.
I'd rather have my doctor. I mean, I'm not saying they have to be cynical, but skeptical. I don't have a problem with this at all. So you started testing with your patients, and you had such miraculous results that it actually piqued your interest. That might be something that they need to do.
My mom raves about these patches now.
Yeah.
And that is one of the best pieces of advice I have for people who are trying to reach their doctor is don't patch your doctor, patch their mom, patch their dad, patch their kid, patch their husband, wife, spouse, whatever. Because the truth is, a lot of the doctors are, they're healthy. I mean, some of them are not, right? But they're actually more likely to see a really impressive result in an older family member. Yeah.
Wow.
That's incredible.
And yeah, I have to be very protective of my reputation, right? Because in the end, people come to me because they trust me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So for me to endorse this product, I have to be very sure that it works.
Yeah. And what about somebody
And it works, guys.
What about some of our friends that are getting involved and they ask us where to put the patch?
Oh, yeah.
Is this like so? I mean, from your experience, the patch works where you stick it on anywhere. I mean, it's a matter of fact. I mean, we've heard that from David, but is it that critical, or where can they, be comforted that it's not such a big question in their mind?
I think people just keep it simple. Put it right over the big first vertebra that sticks out of your neck and your back, where your shoulders kind of meet your neck. It's that simple.
Yeah. And I've seen the best results from the case studies from the ones that were put there.
Oh, really?
As a matter of fact.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, hey, we just want to thank you so much. I mean, everybody. We have got so much knowledge. I mean, what was our goal to have Dr. Stillman here was to raise our educational awareness of how the X39 works. We did that. Appreciate that. And we also, our belief level now is like, people are like, oh my gosh, I've got to be wearing this patch. I don't want to take it off. I got to share it with my loved ones. And because of all this, it screams opportunity when you hear it from somebody like yourself with your background. So, hey, thanks for sharing with us. Our goal is to have everyone have their best year ever. And I'm confident with your knowledge that you shared with us today here at this incredible 10-hour virtual convention. It's going to be wild.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank
you.
you.
So thank you so much for spending your time here at the virtual convention, guys. I'm telling you, we're going to put up his site so you guys can get more educated when he does lectures and all of that. So thank you so much again for your time. I'm telling you guys, hey, 2024 is going to be big. We told you.
And we're excited also to have him as our partner. So we're partnered up together.
That's right.
So not only do we have medical advice, we've got business advice. Where else could a doctor and a former pro water skier, a flight attendant, all be connected like this? This is a really unique community when you think about it, that all these people combine together to help each other in whatever ways they can in life.
It's a great community. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So give him a round of applause, guys. Woo!
All right.
Fired up. Thank you.